Have you ever noticed how exhausted you are? Not just tired from lack of sleep, but a deeper kind of fatigue, the kind that comes from constantly trying to keep it together, trying to meet expectations, trying to be strong, productive, positive, even when every part of you is silently asking for rest. Maybe you don't even realize it, but you're carrying a quiet war inside, a battle to stay in control of life, of time, of yourself. And the harder you fight, the more everything seems to slip right through your hands. You try harder, you plan more, you push through the discomfort, thinking that if you just keep going, it'll finally start to feel right. But it doesn't. The more you try to control things, the more life slips away, like water through your fingers. You force routines that no longer fit. You hold on to relationships, goals, identities, even when every part of you knows they've run their course. And this constant pressure to force life into shape is what's quietly breaking you. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is the very idea that life needs to be controlled? There's an ancient principle in Taoist philosophy. It's called Wu Wei. Alan Watts described it simply: action without force, but don't mistake it for passivity or laziness. Wu Wei is not about doing nothing. It's about doing less of what doesn't align and more of what flows naturally. It's the art of moving with life instead of against it. Think of a dancer. They don't fight the music. They listen, feel, move with it. Not because they're controlling it, but because they've surrendered to the rhythm. Or imagine a surfer. They don't conquer the wave. They read it, they wait, and then, with perfect timing, they rise, balance, glide. Not because of force, but because of flow. This is Wu Wei. Not passive, not weak, but profoundly aligned with what is. Now ask yourself, how many times a day do you try to force what isn't ready? Force clarity. Force productivity. Force decisions you're not truly ready to make. And how often do you punish yourself? Not because you failed, but because you couldn't control something that was never yours to control in the first place. We've been taught to force life into shape, to grind, to hustle, to push through, even when everything inside us is asking to pause, to listen, to trust. You weren't born this way. You weren't born believing you had to earn your worth, or control every outcome, or fight your way through life just to feel safe. You were taught this, trained from a young age to swim against the current, to strive, achieve, perform, even when your body, your mind, your soul were asking for something entirely different. We were raised on slogans like push harder, never settle. Winners don't quit, and so you learn to measure your value by how much you produce, how well you perform, how perfectly you appear to be holding it all together. But no one ever taught you how to let go, how to listen inward, how to trust your timing, not the world's timeline. And so here you are, exhausted, not because you've done something wrong, but because you've been running a race you were never meant to finish that way. It's not your fault, but it is your opportunity to unlearn what was never true in the first place. In the middle of all this noise, pressure, the striving, the confusion, there was someone who saw things differently. His name was Alan Watts, not a monk, not a guru, not a self-help salesman, just a man who understood something we forgot. That peace doesn't come from control, it comes from letting go of control. Watts dedicated his life to translating Eastern wisdom for a Western world addicted to doing. He didn't offer formulas or fixes, he told stories, he asked uncomfortable questions. And he spoke not from doctrine but from experience, like someone who had been there and found a different way through. He introduced the West to Wu Wei, the art of action without force. Not through lectures, but through metaphors, music, laughter, reminding us that life isn't a task to be completed, but a dance to be experienced. And that maybe, just maybe, we don't need to try so hard to make life work. Maybe we need to step back and allow life to show us how it wants to move. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a river, not a stream, a vast, powerful river flowing with ancient force. Its current moves with purpose, carrying everything in its path, leaves, stones, branches, even time itself. Now imagine someone dropped in that river, fighting with everything they've got, desperately trying to swim upstream, struggling to get somewhere, anywhere, except where the current is taking them. Every stroke becomes a battle. Every movement drains them, and eventually their muscles lock, their breath shortens, panic sets in. This is what most of us are doing every single day. Not in water, but in life. Trying to resist what is, clinging to how things should be, forcing decisions, timelines, emotions as if control could save us. But as Alan Watts said, the river of life flows whether you fight it or not. And the more you resist, the more you suffer. Not because life is cruel, but because resistance is. What if you stopped fighting? What if, instead of swimming against the current, you allowed yourself to float? Not to give up, but to trust that the river is carrying you somewhere meaningful. Somewhere your mind could never plan, but your soul already recognizes. Here's the part no one likes to admit. You were trained to believe that if you weren't constantly doing, constantly fixing, constantly controlling, you were failing. Since childhood, you were told, work harder, push through, make it happen. And beneath those messages, a deeper belief was planted, one that runs quietly in the background of your mind. If I stop controlling, everything will fall apart. So you stay busy, you chase goals, you micromanage your time, your future, even your emotions, as if life is a machine and you are the operator trying not to crash it. But life is not a machine, and you are not a factory. You're a living being, meant to flow in rhythms, not schedules. Meant to respond, not just react. Meant to experience, not just execute. And yet our culture worships the opposite. Productivity over presence, speed over stillness, control over connection. We've turned rest into laziness. We've turned uncertainty into threat. We've turned peace into a project we never quite finish. So it's no wonder you feel so disconnected. You're not broken, you're just operating inside a system that punishes stillness and rewards exhaustion. But what if there's another way? So what does it actually mean to live in Wu Wei? To move through life without forcing it? It doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean dropping all responsibility or retreating to a mountaintop. It means something far more radical in today's world. It means slowing down in a culture that glorifies speed. It means listening inward before reacting outward. It means asking, what feels aligned right now, instead of what will get me ahead? Practicing Wu Wei is an act of rebellion. But not loud rebellion, conscious rebellion, a refusal to be dragged by the frantic pace of everything around you. It starts with small choices, choosing quality over quantity, saying no to what's draining, even if it looks productive. Leaving space in your day, not to fill, but to breathe, trusting the timing of things you can't control. And most of all, Wu Wei means being honest with yourself about what's real, what's ready, and what's not. Sometimes the most powerful decision is the one to wait, to observe, to let things unfold without interference. Not because you're lazy, but because you're wise enough to know that life has its own intelligence, and your job isn't to overpower it, but to move with it. But here's the truth no one tells you. Even when you understand Wu Wei, even when it makes perfect sense, letting go still feels terrifying, because we've built our entire identity around effort, around control, around the illusion that if we just try hard enough, we can avoid pain. So when you stop forcing, your old programming doesn't just disappear. It whispers, you're falling behind. You're being lazy. You'll lose everything. That voice, the anxious voice inside you, it's not your enemy. It's just scared to lose the only strategy it's ever known, control. So be patient with yourself. This isn't about becoming perfectly Zen overnight. It's about noticing the impulse to force and choosing even for a moment to soften instead. That's how real transformation begins. Not with massive change, but with tiny, invisible acts of courage. The courage to pause, to wait, to breathe, to say, I don't know what's next, and that's okay. This is not weakness, this is the beginning of freedom. So now, just pause, right here, right now. No fixing, no forcing, no rushing to the next thing. Just ask yourself, where in your life are you swimming upstream? What are you pushing, controlling, or holding on to, even though it's already asking to be released? Maybe it's a decision, a relationship, a version of yourself you no longer need. Whatever it is, just noticing it is the beginning of letting go. If something in this video resonated with you, if something stirred or softened or clicked into place, I invite you to share it in the comments. Not just for me, but for someone else here who needs to know they're not alone in this. And if you're ready to go deeper, the next video is waiting. We'll explore exactly how to live in this space with presence, with rhythm, with trust. Because your life doesn't need more control, it needs more you.